Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name's Eric,
And this is Berto.
and this is Totally Bias.
All right. You want to get into week 5 now?
I do.
You do? All right.
I
All
do.
right. All right. Well, anyways, just a quick finalizing. I did horrible that week 4. We don't have to talk about that. Eric
Oh,
did
we
really
should
well.
definitely talk about
He made
where we're
like
at.
$1,100 more than me. So yeah, we'll move on. He's now he at that point he was up like $800 on me or something.
Yeah, 850.
Yeah. And then we went to this last week. Um, Utah, Oregon State. We both picked Utah. Oregon State won after Oregon State had lost to Washington State, so we were kind of both taking the better team. I don't know how you want to look at that. Utah still doesn't know what it has on offense. Cam Rising has yet to play. Is this going to be like a facade of like he's always coming back this week and then he never comes back just so the other team prepares for him, but it doesn't matter because the team's garbage without him? I don't get this move with Utah, and I don't know if we're going to see Cam Rising really. Okay. I don't know if you have anything else to say. Okay.
I mean,
Uh,
I think you covered it.
all right. Florida, Kentucky. You took Florida. I took Kentucky on this one, -2.5. Probably one of the easiest bets I've had all year. Unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of easy bets.
Well, no, there have been easy bets. You just, suck
Trash.
at this game.
Yeah, trash.
Just get better,
Yeah, I gotta get good. Um, Kentucky
son.
won by like 20 or something. It wasn't a
Yeah,
close game.
33 to 14.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it was a schooling
yep.
in Lexington.
Kansas at Texas. Kansas was undefeated. Was playing also obviously undefeated Texas in Austin. The line was 16.5. Similar situation. Jalen Daniels was supposed to play, and then he's kind of had some back issues and didn't play. Kind of affected the game. They ended up losing by like 20, 30 something. It wasn't really a close game after that. Um, so I lost on Kansas because I thought they would keep it interesting, and you won with Texas easily on that one.
Oh yeah, brother. Yeah,
And
I mean that
then
was a tough one. Obviously, we should have um, we didn't know at the time that
no,
Daniels was going to be out, so I'm sure if you had known that you
we
probably
would
would have
change stuff. Yep.
you would have at least put less on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
thought it was just he was there. It'd be interesting at least, but
yeah.
it's not. And then one of the better games also was the 13 LSU at number 20 Ole Miss. Ole Miss having coming off that loss to Alabama where we were talking about them coming back. Um, it was in Ole Miss. And the line was -2.5 for LSU. I thought LSU was going to win that because Lane Kiffin is not for real. If you know anything about that, he doesn't win big games. Just say it that way. So I was like, he's going to lose this. But apparently, they both decided that defense is not a part of the SEC anymore and just lit it up. It was 55-48 or whatever. Like, it was like, oh,
55-49.
yeah, it was over 100 points, which is absurd. Came down right to the end of the game, and Ole Miss pulled it out. Maybe to your point, maybe LSU. Well, obviously their defense is trash, but maybe they aren't as good as we thought they were coming into the season, where people were saying they were top 4 or 5 team and had a Heisman contender on their team. Defense doesn't look good, obviously. Offense can throw it up, but I mean, doesn't really matter. It's kind of the USC situation again. And Ole Miss, kind of an enigma now. We thought they were up, then they lost to Bama. We thought they were down. Now they beat LSU, which kind of still in the middle. Kind of an enigma to me right now. I've had to decide what to do with them and what they really are.
Yeah, you know, very little defense was played in this game, as you mentioned. And just for context, LSU had 637 total yards. That's 414 passing yards for Jackson Dart and 223 team yards. Most of that coming from Quinshon Judkins, who kind of returned to form in this game, but part
Mm-hmm.
of that's just the team that they played. Ole Miss had, or sorry, the 317 yards for Ole Miss was Quinshon Judkins. My apologies.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss had 706 total yards, 389 passing, and 317 rushing. Right, that's Quinshon Judkins.
Mm-hmm.
It was a duel between the quarterbacks. You know, 389 for Dart and 414 for Daniels. No interceptions, both very efficient, both 4 touchdowns, tons of rushing. Um, Ole Miss was even penalized for 121 yards.
It didn't
Didn't
matter.
matter. LSU's defense is porous. Ole Miss's defense is almost at the same level. Um, both those teams are just going to have to rely purely on offense of just and hoping of outscoring other teams. Obviously, that's how you win games. I understand that. But if they face a team with a solid defense, much like Ole Miss did in the prior week, right? They score 55 on LSU the week after they play Alabama and score 10.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, you take both these teams and you line them up against each other and no defense is played, it's going to have a high score. Great game, super fun to watch. But I think that it really put into question both of these teams going forward. I don't think they're nearly as strong as we were thinking they were, especially a couple weeks ago. They have tumbled down my rankings, both in the SEC and overall.
No, that's fair. That's fair. No,
So
an
I
instant
went I
classic
went in
though.
on that game. I had a lot of feelings. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. Not instant classic on this one because this one had a million points on it compared to the 14 to 21 or whatever it was for.
No, instant classics can only have like a grand total of 25 points or something like that. So
She's just making up rules about instant classics now. Before you said it had to be a low scoring game. We said the 6 and 9. Now this 55-49,
sorry.
which
Okay, sorry. It needs to be 14 points or less total or 140 points or more.
so 72, 74. The 7 overtime game for A&M is the only
Oh,
other game.
that I just came up with that rule just out of
Oh,
nowhere.
right,
That wasn't
right.
in context
No,
with
not
anything.
totally biased at all on that one.
No, 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 no.
That's
That
like the
was
only game that can be an instant classic. Then great, great. Okay, well,
I don't make the rules, okay?
yeah, you do. You just made it up.
There's no evidence for that.
You made it up. There's no middle ground for you. It's either one extreme or the other extreme. There's either defense all over the field and no offense, or offense all over the field and no defense.
Correct.
Great. All
Yeah.
right. We just good to know now. Good to
Mhm.
know. Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Moving to our last game of last week was the Notre Dame again in at game day. Not at home this time, away at Duke, the number 17 Blue Devils, which are having a great season. Great job of Mike Elko there. Um, Close game again, low scoring game again. I don't want to seem like I'm on repeat from what we were talking about, what happened a week ago, but almost the same thing happened. They were down, except for Notre Dame now. Notre Dame was down 14-13, and had to drive down the field and score a touchdown to win it with 30 seconds left after that. Um, Quick update or quick notice on that. That was a bad beat. The line was 5.5. So if you had Duke plus 5.5, you were golden winning by 1. Then they score. So obviously with the 6 points, it's 19-14. It's 5. You have 5.5. They hit the extra point, right? It would have been 20. You would have lost 6. But because it would have been 20-14, they went for 2 to make it out of range, right? To make it 7 points. If they stop the 2, would have been 19-14. Your 5.5 would have hit. But of course, bad beats how they are. They hit the 2-point conversion, got to 7, screwed your plus 5.5. Good thing though is we both had Notre Dame, so it didn't matter for us.
Hey, it's a good beat.
But if we would have been on that, we would have been like, God damn it! Like we would have been probably calling each other like they need to get this stop or something or this 2-point conversion. But away from that, it proved that Notre Dame is still pretty good. I think Duke still is also pretty good. Almost the same like we said with Ohio State. I don't think Duke drops that much for me after this game when you have a last second, drive or last minute drive to lose to a good team. And also your quarterback got injured. So there's kind of something there. But it doesn't really change anything. We kind of still feel the same for both of these teams. More defense proven teams, it seems like, than offense. Sam Hartman might not be what we thought he was at the beginning of the season. Kind of has dipped down a little bit, but I mean, he's still winning games, I guess, here and keeping afloat, I think.
Okay. So I've got a question for you with
Yeah.
talking kind of Duke, right?
Okay.
Um Give me a blue blood program that you think is probably closest or close to firing their head coach.
A blue blood program that is closest to firing
Yeah,
their head
just
coach.
just quick, just real quick. Not a ton of thought needs to go into it.
I don't know. I feel like you're prompting me to do something.
Nope. Nope. It's just a waypoint to get to the next question.
Who's not? Well, Clemson's not doing well, but I don't think they're gonna fire Dabo.
Okay, so Florida. So Florida is your pick. If you're Florida, right, and you fire your coach, right, which
Yeah, Florida.
could
Florida
happen.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Florida's got everything you need, right? Recruiting, they've got the facilities, the money, blah blah blah. If you're Florida, who would you go after as your head coach between Deion Sanders and Mike Elko?
Well, they should go. Well, what would they do, or what I would do, or what they should do was
What
the
would you
question.
do?
I would go get Mike Elko
I would
because
as
I
well.
think it makes more sense to. He's more defense side of the ball. I think he can build the program better than Dion. I know we've talked up Dion a little bit with Colorado, but it's not really building a program, just bringing in transfers and sticking in pieces. We'll see what happens next year's and years moving forward. But you've seen with Mike Elko, they can build that program, and they have defense, which in the SEC I always talk about defense being the main side of the ball, even though we've seen that change recently. But that would bring back that toughness and mentality to Florida. But I thought you were going to say Michigan State because they have fired their coach. I mean, there's talk that Mike Elko might be one of the top candidates to go to Michigan State, which would be also interesting because also that defensive minded, kind of fits in with the Big Ten low scoring games and good defense.
So I guess now the follow up, if you're going to bring that up, um, is Michigan State a better job than Duke at this point?
Yes,
Okay.
I thought you
Is
were going to
it?
say Florida. It's not better than Florida. No,
No, it is not better than Florida.
no.
Um, yeah, I mean, Michigan State has just they haven't been good for so long, not really. Um, so it's just
So
tough.
you think it's better for him to stay there, and that Duke is a better spot for him than Michigan State if that were the scenario. Okay,
Yeah, if he were to ask me my opinion, I would say stay at Duke. Um, he can win at Duke right now with the ACC still being considered a decent conference. Um, the big players are down right now in the ACC. He's got a chance to possibly win
yeah,
ACC championship. And right, if he takes a Michigan State job, if something else that's better pops open, he may not be able to take it. Right. So the idea is, I think there
correct.
are other positions that might open up over the next couple of years. That if I were Mike Elko, he's only in year 2 at Duke,
Correct,
right?
correct,
So
correct.
like if I'm him, I'm staying for another couple of years, right? Where in the ACC is kind of down, right? The big players, Clemson, Florida State's good.
Good,
We
yeah.
talked about we're not really sure. I think it's up for grabs, and I think Duke's as positioned as anybody. If I'm Mike Elko, I'm staying where I am unless a big program like a Florida or, you know, I don't know who else, Nick Saban retires.
Utah or something.
Utah, sure.
Maybe. My
Um,
thinking though, and maybe Utah wouldn't be, was um the ACC, like the Big Ten, you would get the benefit of the Big Ten in this whole. We talk about realignment a lot. Big Ten, SEC, going to be the two powerhouses moving forward. I get your point. Clemson's a little bit down. He could potentially win one this year. But in the future, maybe if and there's talks that Florida State and Clemson leave, he could be a top dog there, maybe with Miami or something. But will it be valued as much winning the ACC if Florida State and Clemson aren't there? Whenever we get to this 12-team playoff and the Big Ten are in it versus the Big Ten, if you can get to a point where you're maybe the third best team or fourth best team, you have more potential to do more there because of where the college football is going.
so I mean, I think it's all context, right? Because if you're AD, looking at Mike Elko, um, you know, you're not going to be like, oh, well, he only won the ACC, right? You're going to look at him as, okay, this is the context in which he won it, right? He won the ACC with Duke, right?
Yeah,
Like
but if
in this
Florida
situation.
State and Clemson aren't there,
But at the end, like
hypothetically,
he's still like that's what I'm saying though is like it's still what you can do with what you have, right? And he's making a
correct.
lot out of what he's got available to him at Duke. And if you're a big program, you're not going to just pass on him to be like, oh well, he only won the ACC title. Like if you're a Florida, I think you jump on that. Like I think
No,
Mike
Florida.
Elko is the like people talk about Dion. I think Mike Elko is the probably the biggest name in college football in terms
Lance
of the
Leopold.
the next Lance Leopold as well. Um, I think Elko, but I
Okay.
think part of that's just because we have a history with Elko more than
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
most of the country. So we kind of understand. Um, and but like he's
My
so
thinking is just it's a almost like a watered down. If he does it this year, yes. But if it's like a couple years from now and Clemson, Florida are in there, it's almost a watered down championship. I agree. You wouldn't be like, oh, he only won the ACC with, but it's a watered down. You would know even then they might not get in if they win the ACC if they're those two teams aren't there, right? Like the Big 12 here in a year. If Cincy wins it in 2 years over nobody's, they still not might get into the playoffs. So
well, it's a 12 team. It'll be a 12-team
it'll be
playoff,
a
so
total playoff, yeah.
they'll get in.
But well, you don't know. We're talking about Big Ten and SEC maybe getting three or four in or more, right?
I know, but if you win the ACC, you're probably in. It doesn't mean the second place will get it, but
Okay. If you think they're going to get in, I don't know. I feel like if the way we're going, if that were to happen, which we don't know, Florida State, Clemson, you might get four or so from Big Ten, and
yeah,
then it makes it hard for you might only get one or two from the other ones, one
yeah.
from the other ones from the
But
smaller
again,
schools.
my point is, it's not like if you're an AD, you're not picking them to run the, you know, to bring all of everything that they have at that school to your new school, right? Like you're providing them with a different set of resources and
Correct.
advantages, right? So it's not, oh, well, he's only capable of winning the ACC. It's what will he be capable of when given the resources that we have at our disposal here as opposed to Duke, right?
I
Anyway,
guess we disagree a little bit there.
we can
I think we
disagree.
disagree a little bit there because
So I
I
think
always think it's what you did, obviously. And if it means less, I think it means less. But we can disagree a little.
But I mean, when you're hiring a coach like that, a lot of it too can be projection, right? Like, why did OU hire Brett Venables?
Well, he went there. He was like the DC there for fucking
Okay,
years. He
but
shouldn't have gone there.
yeah, but
Now he's doing all right, but
yeah, he's doing all right now. But
that's like Billy Napier. Why did the Billy Napier go to Florida?
good question. The
He,
money,
he shouldn't have, right? The money, right? But it was because he'd done one in the Sun Belt. But then now we talk about it on the flip side. We're like, well, he only won the Sun Belt. Like, who gives a crap, right? Now we can see that he doesn't. It looks like doesn't do jack with what he has at his dispense because now he has a top 5 or 10 brand in the sport and he's doing jack shit with it.
yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, right? You have to project, like that's how it works.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to try to predict what, you can't
correct.
just take people who have had success at the Power 5 level to be your next head
I
coach.
think my thinking though
Or everyone would
is,
just be passing the coaches around, except
well,
everyone
yeah,
would be
yeah, which
bad. So
they kind of do that already. But
in a
yes,
way,
yes, in a way they do that.
Lane
But I
Kiffin.
think yeah, um, Lane, Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley. Anyways, I think my thinking is I would prefer he go to like a Michigan State or something if it's first because it's open right now, then potentially Florida if it waits a year. Go early, then wait longer because then you get the whole Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell, remember like 2 3 years ago was like the hottest name, and now he's like dog shit. Now they're like gonna fire him from Iowa State. He's never gonna go to a big program. Luke Fickle almost had that same situation with Cincy. He was a big name, and then he kind of fell off, and he was like, "Oh, I gotta go find something now." Versus, what if he stays at Duke because he didn't go to Michigan State, and 2 years from now he's like forgotten. Like I'd rather
Yeah.
you go somewhere quick if Florida takes longer. But
So you're taking the one in the hand is better than two in the bush
correct.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that too. My thing, at least um for Mike, I just see a lot more there maybe than the other two that we talked about.
Okay.
But this is totally biased. This is what we're
No,
supposed to
yeah,
do.
that's what the whole point
I don't
is.
know. I think Mike
Fans,
is
let us
is going
know.
to be big.
Fans, comment. What is a better job right now, Michigan State or Duke right now with Mike Elko? He's doing really well there. He's like 13-5 or something in 2 years. Like it's
I just think all the stuff surrounding Michigan State right now too is just not a good situation. So it's just a tough spot to,
yeah,
step into. Like it's just not a very attractive position currently. Um,
because of the allegations and stuff. Because
that
or
yeah,
just they're not winning.
they're not winning. They're
Because Penn State, you are gosh, now I can't remember Penn State head coach.
Franklin.
James Franklin had almost the same situation after the allegations and Sandusky and stuff. Penn State was they literally had no resources. Another big name that had essentially no resources because they were essentially killed off, like no scholarships, all this came from a smaller school, Vanderbilt, to be fair, in SEC, and went to Penn State and almost rebuilt it. Like now they're a top 8, top 10 team almost year in, year out. But they were struggling after that, which is, to be fair, right? Like there was because of the allegations, all the stuff that happened. But I don't know. Maybe at that point it wasn't attractive, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
but I mean the thing is Franklin has been there for a long time
Yeah,
now,
way
and
long time now. Yeah, yeah.
they like he's had success. Like by most team standards, he's had success,
Yes. Oh yeah.
but
He hasn't won
he's
a
like 3-58 against the two teams that matter.
yes.
Right. So like I get your point that he's rebuilt that program, but they're not competing like they're competing, but they not really.
No,
Like
they're competing, but yeah,
but if
they're
you
the little brother. Yeah,
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 you don't want to
yeah,
be
yeah.
the afterthought. Like
Yes.
everyone knows that it's Ohio State, Michigan, and then it's Penn State as the afterthought.
Correct.
You don't if you are Mike Elko, you don't want to even be the afterthought to the afterthought, right? Like you don't want to be Michigan State in the scenario and but the other thing to note is if you go to Florida right now, Florida is kind of an interesting spot. You are a little brother to Georgia right now and Alabama, right? At
And
least
even just not
historically.
even your conference, you have to fight against Miami and Florida State, which at this moment, at this point in time, are both better right now. Like it's
Yeah.
hard to get. You'd be hard to be like, oh, come start with me versus Florida State potentially going to
I
playoffs this
just
year.
think from a recruiting standpoint, Florida is so much of a better spot, right?
Yeah, I agree there. I agree with that.
It just is, right?
I
Florida
agree
is
there. Yeah,
the
yeah,
most fertile recruiting ground.
yeah. Florida and like Georgia and like Texas are like always.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so yes, they're competing in in the state with the other Florida schools,
the other Floridas. Yeah,
but there's plenty of talent to go around and it's Florida. Like Florida is
yeah.
one of the biggest brands in college football,
Correct. Correct.
um
Correct.
realistically, right? So,
No, I agree. I
I
agree.
just think
Yeah.
it would be a better situation there, right? But
Okay.
we can both agree
No,
we
no.
agree
I
that
think
Elko is
no,
the
no, no.
better
I
choice
said
over Dion.
Florida. I said Florida over Michigan State. I'm just saying Michigan
Yeah.
State over Duke currently.
Okay.
That's the bigger question.
Okay.
The Florida, I agree entirely. If Florida comes open and I
Yeah.
tell them take that Elko. If you're
Vote
listening,
now on your phones.
yeah. But if
Let us know.
vote now though, or comment
Vote
below
now on your
and
phones.
tell us which is a better spot right now, Michigan State or Duke, not
If you
Florida.
find
We
our
both know.
numbers, call us and tell us.
Too many people who listen to us have our numbers. They're gonna get so many calls now.
I hope so. It's all about the engagement.
There
That's what
you go.
matters.
Comment down below though. Comment down below.
Yes.
Uh,
Comment down below.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that was our last pick'em game.
Yep.
Um, so year to date, we have bet
Once again,
5,400.
you had a great week. I did
Yeah.
not have a great week. I lost money again. You made $300, so I'm down 500 just this week,
Yep.
and I'm down a lot.
Yeah. We have bet 5,400 total this year. Berto's at 5,300. He has lost a
Only
Benji.
100 though.
So he's still in it. There's a lot of footing, football to be played.
A lot of football to be played. We're just now in October, man.
I've got a good cushion though. I'm at 66.5. So I'm sitting pretty at 1,200 or what is it? I guess 1,250 over our bet right now. So looking pretty good. on
No,
my end.
he's looking good. Yes, yes. But
So
like we said, it's only just turned to October.
hell yeah. A
It's
lot of
it's
football to be played, which is very happy. All of a sudden, it's going to be midway through the season. It's going to be really sad because that means the football season's halfway over and we get that much closer to the off season and the worst time of the year. So we want to avoid that as best as we can.
avoid
Uh,
the off season. Just
yes.
go into a coma from
Yeah, I hope to.
February or like middle of February to like August.
Okay. So a couple of the games that we didn't put pick'ems on that we do need to talk about. Georgia walked into Jordan Hare and almost laid a stinker right on the field. The only reason they pulled out a 27-20 win was because they have probably the best player at their position in football, Mr.
Oh,
Brock
at their
Bowers.
position. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so and what I mean is it's hard to tell who's the best player, period, but
He might be the best player, period.
he
He might
might be
be
the
the
best player.
most valuable player.
Yeah. Caleb Williams is the most valuable player. Without Caleb Williams, USC's like 2-3. So
Hey, you don't know that. Malachi Nelson is there.
that's
Malachi.
true. Malachi Nelson.
Malachi Nelson, which wait. You can't say that. 2 years ago, Caleb Williams came in this exact weekend to save Oklahoma versus Texas
Yep.
after we had Spencer Rattler, first overall pick, jackass, was supposed to be anointed. Yeah, then Caleb just came in and was like, oh, I'm Caleb Williams and just saved him.
Yep.
What if Malachi, you know,
Malachi Nelson.
Malachi Nelson comes in? It's like the next Caleb Williams, which would be weird because Caleb's there, but whatever.
Yeah, and he's also still playing well. So, but no, what I mean, he might be the best player, right? That's up for
Yeah.
debate. What's not up for
Yeah.
debate is the difference between if you take every position in college football and you ranked the players and you actually like weighted how good they were compared to the rest of the other players, the biggest gap between 1 and 2 is the tight end position, and it's Brock Bowers.
Oh, for
Brock
sure.
Bowers is
For sure.
by far, he is, there's a bigger delta between Travis Kelce and the rest of the tight ends. Or sorry, there's a bigger delta between Brock Bowers and the rest of the tight ends in college football than there is from Travis Kelce to the other tight ends in the NFL, for sure.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna say Travis Kelce to Brock Bowers.
No, no, no,
The gap
no.
between Brock Bowers and every other college tight end is massive, but the gap between Travis Kelce and Brock Bowers is not that. How can I see myself? It's not that not that stark, man.
I don't think it's that big.
It's not. That's what I'm saying.
That's what's wild. Like
I think the second best tight end in college football is not even like to like Brock Bowers' like feet, but Travis Kelce comes up or Brock Bowers comes close to Travis Kelce. Not
I,
very close, but
you and I have talked about this, that
we've said this
if Brock Bowers was drafted last year
last year.
and was currently playing in the NFL, you and I would have him. I think we said top 5
Top 5
minimum tight end right
You
now.
had him like 3.
I think I had him top 3. Yeah.
Oof, which is crazy. I had him top 5.
Well, but like right now, like it's Travis Kelce is obviously doing amazing things,
Still, yeah.
but there's still a pretty big gap. Like, I don't know. We haven't seen a tight end do the stuff that Brock Bowers has done.
Correct.
I'm just
Kyle
done
Pitts
talking,
did it for
I
that
guess.
1 year, but yeah, not
But
like Brock's been doing it for so long.
Brock did it as a freshman. He did it as a sophomore, and he's doing it now again as a junior. Um, I think he's going to translate to the NFL. Kyle Pitts obviously did not.
Did not.
So Travis Kelce does have the benefit of having Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. True. So there is something to that. But anyway, yes, Brock Bowers bailed out Georgia in this game.
Yes.
They beat an Auburn team. They were tied with an Auburn team going into the fourth quarter, with an Auburn team that was absolutely demolished by Texas A&M the week before.
Yes.
Auburn is not a good football team, and Georgia is sort of making a habit of kind of just squeaking things out. In their 2 SEC games, they won 24-14 against South Carolina, and it was scary in that game. And that was at home. And then 27-20
Yep,
against
that's
Auburn away.
that was what I was gonna bring up. Auburn was away at A&M and got exposed, I guess, or it showed that they weren't good. Georgia was at home and had a rough game against South Carolina. When then after you, and I guess it just proves that the SEC is just a conglomerate of mediocre teams. Nobody knows is really good. But the fact that Auburn was away, came home, it's a bounce back game, right? Versus Georgia having a close game at home, going to an away game, and we know in the SEC, almost anywhere you go, it's a hostile environment, right? Um, Going to Auburn, I would have said it's going to be closer than whatever the line is. I know we didn't do it, but it was like 14 or 15. It would have been closer than that just because of that. Like they had been down, they have to travel to an environment versus Auburn having away going home. I know I always bring up the home versus aways, but I do think it affects teams more than you would think. And yeah, it's Brock Bowers is saving that team.
Yeah.
Hopefully, and I don't want to say it now. Damn it. I'm not gonna say it now. I won't say anything.
Okay, good. Um,
I was gonna say hopefully he doesn't get injured or something, and now he's gonna get injured, and
yeah,
people are gonna
you
like.
bastard. You
I
bastard.
was gonna say, well, if he's injured, like, what is the next best player on that team? Like some defender probably, but like, I just hope they
If
don't.
yeah,
Now he's gonna get injured this weekend, and people are gonna fucking comment, be like, "You fucked it."
yeah, I'll
And
comment on it and say you fucked
I
it.
know you will.
Um, so this weekend is probably their I'm just going to predict is probably their biggest test of the season um against Kentucky.
Whoa, you checked their schedule though?
I have. Yes, they play Mizzou, Ole Miss, and
Yes.
Tennessee at the end of the
Yeah,
season.
those are three not easy
I
games.
said what I said.
All
Um
right, all right.
Especially because
Hot
of where
takes.
Georgia is right now and where Kentucky is, right?
They're both in their
Georgia,
respective states.
yeah, exactly. They're both currently at home in their beds probably.
Yeah,
It's
I
late
was gonna
on the
say
East
they're
Coast.
Kentucky hasn't traveled to Georgia yet. Like they're both in
um,
their respective states. Go ahead.
yeah, I just see Georgia having more time till the end of the season, possibly to sort of evolve. I think Kentucky's in a good spot right now. Um, I think this is going to be a close game, and we'll talk maybe a little bit more here in a moment about that game and our predictions. But just bringing up that I think this is going to be a big test. Moving on, one of our favorite teams so far, Washington, went down and played Arizona, and that was
God damn
also
it.
a
I
close
had
game.
that over. See, sidebar. The over, I was picking an over, and I was between that game, which was 65.5, or the Colorado USC game, which was 73.5. And I was like, man, 73.5 is a big number. Washington puts up points. Arizona doesn't play defense. They're going to put up points. 65 is easier. And they screwed me. They screwed me at like fucking 1 a.m. I realized it because that game is hella late. They
Yeah,
screwed me.
they fucked you real good.
So I should
Um,
have taken the Colorado game. That game would hit like 100 or something. Damn it.
it
Suck.
was close. Yes, it was close to 100. Yeah, I mean, this was sort of the first time we've seen Washington sort of stumble. Um,
Yeah.
you know, up until this point, they've kind of just done whatever the fuck they want with teams.
Mm-hmm.
The lowest score they had was 41 in their
Yep.
previous games.
Yep.
So this is a departure, sort of from that. None of their other games have been close. So a little bit interesting. Right now this looks more like a fluke probably than
Yeah, I mean,
anything. So
you can't expect it to win by 50 every game, right? Like you're
exactly.
gonna have closer games. So I don't take much out of it other than they screwed me on the over. But um I mean, it's going to be impossible for Penix to put up 4 touchdowns and 400 yards and a rushing touchdown every game, right? It's just he's going to have a bad day or you know
Yep.
something. So, um, but it does seem to prove that they are human to an extent. Um, but I don't think it really changes my mind on them that much. I do think their defense might not be that great comparatively, but we kind of
Yeah.
knew that since they put up 1 million points anyways. So that
Yeah.
USC Washington game, I don't know if they play, would be crazy.
I mean, so I think one of the biggest things though is if you look at the teams that Washington's played, not a super strong strength of record currently. So we'll have to see once they kind of get into Pac-12 play, specifically their next game, which is versus Oregon. Currently number 8 Oregon is heading into Husky Stadium
in 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now. So that'll be a big game, and we'll really get to know where Washington is for that one. Another game that was a 7-point game, USC and Colorado. We kind of hinted at this one. USC exploded out to kind of a big lead. Caleb Williams, 6 touchdown passes, still a stud. What is his name? Malachi Nelson is not going. Malachi Nelson is not at risk of taking Caleb's job right now. But that defense is atrocious. They phoned in the second half. I think that was probably a big motivator and confidence booster for Colorado going forward. And I think it really puts into question what USC is going to look like against semi-competent offenses.
Well, they're going to have a big test here in also 2 weeks when Washington plays Oregon, when they play Notre Dame.
Yep.
Notre Dame has a decent defense and also can put up points with Sam Hartman. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. Also, when they play Utah later in the year, I think also make it interesting. Utah always has good defense and kind of has USC and Caleb Williams' number. So I don't know. I think we already talked about it, but yeah, their defense is just not good. It's just it seems like a Lincoln Riley team, right? We saw this at Oklahoma. Always did really well. Always almost dropped the game because of defense. Made it to the playoffs, and we were like, okay, we'll see what happens. And they play a Big Ten team or an SEC team and get destroyed, just mollywopped. Like this is what happened. And so, mollywopped. And you can't do anything about it. So it seems like it's trending the same way. Unfortunately for USC, because I think there was high expectations that they could be national champions. And have a repeat Heisman. They might have a repeat Heisman, but that national champion without any defense, as we always say in the show, it's hard to win national championships.
Yeah. So we hear. Yeah. All right. Do you want to jump into our most favorite segment? And we can use, once we do that, we can talk our picks and kind of preview these games.
You want to do that, or you want to do our top 12? Which should we do first?
It's a good question. Let's go through top 12 quick. Can't spend too much time there.
All right.
So your week 5, who do you got? Number 1.
Mine hasn't really changed. Or we're doing 1-1 each, or
let's do 1-1.
Okay, Florida State, so number 1.
I've got Texas at number 1.
Got Texas number 2.
I've got Penn State at number 2.
Ooh, spicy. Okay,
it is spicy. Yep.
I had.
I'll give a quick explanation on that one. Penn State has been sort of my most reliable team so far. And to kind of reveal the next one, Michigan is number 3. I have them back to back. I think they're interchangeable at this point, only because they haven't shown any faltering so far.
All right. Well, I'll get into that.
They're relatively untested, but they have not faltered at all. So
I'll get into those in 10 minutes. But okay. I now have number 3, Oregon. They moved up a spot just because of the teams losing. And at number 4, I have Washington.
I've got Washington 4.
Okay, same reasons. Number 5, I have USC.
I've got Bama at 5.
Yeah. Ranking. Number 6, I have Ohio State. First Big Ten team for me.
I've got Oregon at number 6.
Okay, so not that far away. And then I got Notre Dame 7, just a step below because they lost Ohio State.
Yep, I got Ohio State at 7 with Notre Dame at number 8.
Okay, and then I have Duke at 8, just a step below Notre Dame. So for me, Ohio State at 6, Notre Dame at 7, and Duke at 8 are almost interchangeable for me because they've played one-score games in the last second. So that's why I have them 6, 7, 8. Number 9, I have Miami.
I have Miami at 9.
Oh, nice. Okay. UNC at 10.
I've got Texas A&M at 10.
Ooh, the Aggies. Were they on your ranking the week before this?
They were not.
Okay. They're making their way up. Okay.
Yep.
Number 11, I have Washington State.
I've got Oklahoma at 11.
Okay, I have Oklahoma at 13, but number 12, I have Penn State. And I was going to ask you, is Penn State the best team in the Big Ten right now?
No,
But you have them
I
number two then. You have
I
them
know.
above Michigan, Ohio
I
State.
know. I know that's what I have, but like I said, the rankings are not necessary. Like it's tough, right?
It is tough.
Do I think that Michigan will beat Penn State? Yes.
No,
But in terms of like
okay.
consistency,
I
they're
don't.
basically one
That's
A, one B.
why. Okay, so that's what I wanted to
They
ask you
they have
because
better Penn State has better wins. They
yes,
have better wins than Michigan. And that's the only reason that Penn State is above Michigan for me
okay,
in my
that's fair.
rankings. I
That's
think
fair.
Michigan is probably a better team,
I think
but
Penn State is the best team in the Big Ten right now. But I have them 12, and I have the only other Big Ten above them, Ohio State, because they beat Notre Dame. But I have them 12 because of the thrashing that they did on Iowa. 31-0 at Iowa. We already talked about it. They had almost the same points as Iowa had plays. You can't just overlook that. That looks like a good win to me, so that's why I have them 12. And then just real quick, my next two win would be Oklahoma, Alabama, and Oregon State.
yep. My 12 is Oregon State, and then 13 USC, 14 Duke, 15 Florida
Hmm.
State.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. I don't believe in UNC. So,
What?
and if you noticed, listeners, did anybody hear the name Georgia in either of our rankings?
Neither rankings
Nope. Georgia is not in my
is
rankings.
not in my
I
ranking
do
either.
not at this point believe in Georgia.
But I also, I mean, yours is you're not having Georgia is fair, but I don't have Georgia or Michigan in my rankings, one or two in rankings, and I have Alabama
I
technically like
I am
14th
surprised as hell you don't have Michigan.
because they haven't done anything. If you look at what all these teams have done up to this point, Michigan has not done anything. That's how I'm looking at it.
Michigan has been just incredibly consistent. Like, okay, the points that they have allowed, and I understand the teams that they've played, right? But is 3, 7, 6, 7, 7. And they've put up a minimum of 31 points in all of those games. They're just methodical,
How
right?
many Power Five teams are in that group?
Not that many.
Exactly.
Two,
Two,
and one of
and
those
who
is
are they?
Rutgers
Okay, there you
at
go. There
home.
you go. At home, exactly. What's the other one?
Nebraska?
Yeah, was there at home?
No. There was a way.
Are you
They beat
sure?
Nebraska 45-7 at
Are you
at
sure it was
Nebraska.
in Nebraska? Okay.
Yes.
Because for a while there, they hadn't left Michigan for like 5 weeks.
This was their
Like,
first away game.
okay, there you go. Great. They literally haven't like left Michigan. Their first game, they go to Nebraska, who like I get it. I get your thing, but I'm trying to not do the whole preseason rankings and what we knew from last year. They haven't done anything. Like to the point that we haven't had him even in our pick'ems yet. They haven't even had like remotely close games where we're like, oh, let's throw them in there. They just to me, they've been an afterthought. Once they
Well,
play
hey,
Michigan State
Berta,
or
what would the alien think?
the alien would have them well,
Number
God, I can
one.
do the no, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't.
I bet you they would.
I can do the alien thing again, but no, they wouldn't.
Well,
They
what do you mean you can do the alien thing? You
well,
mean
I mean,
you're
do you
gonna
want to do it?
call your buddy the alien and have him come and give you?
Yes,
Okay, do
I'll
that.
dress up as
And
alien.
I bet Michigan will be number one.
Nope. I think they would be like 9 or 10. There's still so many unranked or undefeated teams.
I guess the alien looks at record first, right?
Records first,
And
exactly.
then
So
points.
it's points. Yes. So how
Okay,
many undefeated teams are there?
go ahead, have him run. Look, take a look, have him watch all the games. Right?
Oregon would
He's
probably be
so
one,
for
or
those that don't know.
USC,
So
USC or Oregon
no,
or Washington.
no, because it's point differential, right?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
it's point differential the way I did it. It's
USC
not
has had
PP. It's
close.
not point per win,
Yeah,
right?
USC has had close games. Anyway, so for those that don't know, Berto has the personal phone number of an alien that on occasion we have him come in, give us his
Occasionally.
rankings, right? He doesn't know anything about college football, but we have him watch all the games. He's got like 48 eyes or something.
Yeah, some bullshit.
So he can watch all the games kind of at once and he will provide us rankings. Berto, go ahead and give him a call after we're done here
We'll
and
do.
get
We'll do.
those rankings to
All right.
us. Yeah.
We'll check.
So
But
we'll call that done on Michigan, right?
okay.
Once we hear the aliens' perspective, that's what we'll know.
But anyways, apart from the alien, that's why I don't have them on there. I didn't have
That's
Ohio
fair.
State on there until like they beat Notre Dame. I barely am getting Alabama in the mix now because they're starting to show me something. I mean, I get it, but yeah, Georgia, neither of us have it because they haven't done shit. That's what I'm getting at. Like they're
Yeah.
also undefeated.
I think you're just
Michigan.
not, I just think you're not, you know, I just think you're not giving Bowling Green
Oh,
the
right.
benefit of the doubt. Well, because
I gave
you walk in and try not to do preseason rankings. How do
correct.
you know that Eastern Carolina University isn't the best team in the country? You don't.
You're
All you
right.
can do is
You're
see
right.
what they've done to these
You're right.
teams, and they have blown every team out. And the most points they've allowed is
You're right.
7, and they've scored 31 in every game. So I
You're
don't
right.
know what you're doing here.
You're you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. And another podcast that you like a lot also brings it up whenever somebody is undefeated and you're like, well, they haven't played anybody, right? Like these casuals out here be like, oh, they haven't played anybody. It's like, well, yes, you're right. They haven't played anybody. So up until that point, you're right. They haven't done anything. But up until that point, they have also won every game. So you're saying that side of it, they are still undefeated. They have still won every game. And we don't know. These teams that are haven't done anything or are nobodies could be somebody. We just don't know that, and we'll try to figure it out. I
Yeah,
think once we get to those games where Michigan does play the Penn States or Wisconsin's or Ohio State's, we will figure that out. If those teams they were playing were nobodies or those teams were actually somebodies and can move up. But up
yeah,
until this point, I don't think I've seen anything that's like, oh, Michigan's a top 12 team to me,
yeah.
15 to be honest.
So something to just remind the listener on is we set kind of explicit criteria at the beginning of the season as to how each of us were doing our own rankings.
Yep.
And I'm just going to just throw this out, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree. The rankings that I have, I attempt to align with my like my criteria, right? They don't necessarily um tell you how good I think a specific team is versus another team per se.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
it's not like I just said,
I agree. I
like
agree.
who do I think is better, Michigan or Penn State? I think Michigan's better. But Penn State has shown me more sort of so far based on what I've seen, right? But there's a lot of my personal feelings I try to keep away. And if you were to just give me what are your rankings just without criteria, just kind of your feelings, that the rankings would be slightly different, right? So it's sort of a weird.
No, I get what you're saying, and that was the criteria, and that's why I tried. Like, we didn't have a preseason ranking, right? Because we were like, we're just not going off of last year, and so I went on the first week. But then what I've done is I've established from that first week if a team was good or bad, then it affects moving forward. So obviously I had Colorado like second, right, or something like that. I don't think you had Colorado in your ranking yet, but I had Colorado like number 2 because I thought they had a good win against a good TCU team. Now they've lost 2, so obviously stuff
Yeah,
has
but
changed.
your problem there was saying against a good TCU team. So
Yeah,
the problem is if you bring in any right, but it's hard, right? So when you're talking rankings, especially week
yeah,
one, if you
especially week
say
one.
they
Yeah,
beat a good TCU team, then you're bringing in what you think TCU or thought they were based on last year. So it's a
no,
really tough to kind of
yeah, halfway. Yeah, it's what I thought they were this year, not off of what last year because they were number 2
yeah.
team technically.
But
But
what you think this year is driven off of what happened. Okay, enough talking about Michigan and sort of our rankings. Let's
okay.
jump into our pick'ems this week and our one of our most favorite segments,
Oh
the
yeah,
how do they
the
know?
fan favorite
Fan
segment
favorite.
back again
Back
because the fans
again.
enjoy it.
Yep.
How do they know?
We
So we
get
have
literally dozens of requests.
yes. I thought you were gonna say tens of
Tens of
yes,
requests.
at least 10 requests. Anyways, getting right into it. The first game, they call it the Red River Showdown, the Red River Shootout, the Red River something, the Red River Shit Show, whatever. Oklahoma. It's at Texas, but it's not really at Texas. It's a neutral site. At the Cotton Bowl. It's still in the Cotton Bowl, not the Cotton Bowl, the bowl game that is played at Jerry World now. Um, Number 12, Oklahoma. Like we said, Brent Venables doing better than we thought there this year, versus Texas, who is a top 2 or 3 team, depending who, if you ask me or you or the A people. It is a neutral site, like I said. What do you got on this game?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of questions for me about Oklahoma, and really what they are at this point. So it's a tough line. I think the powers that be and those making the lines are going to favor Texas heavily just because of I think what people think they're going to be. But rivalry games, especially this rivalry, should always be looked at as closer than they probably should be. That was not the case very recently
Mm-hmm.
for this game, but I do think this is going to be a closer game. I'm going to go 5.5 to Texas.
5.5 to Texas. And the line is 6.5 to Texas.
There we go.
Good job. Yeah, it's a closer game just because I think also because it's a neutral site, that whole thing. And it's always considered one of the best rivalries, one of the best games, all that stuff. At the state fair. But yeah, I think it makes sense, Texas being 6.5. I don't know if I will take that. I think I might lean the other way. But I get where the 6.5 is coming from. All
Yep.
right. Moving to the next game. An SEC powerhouses, number 23 LSU at number 21 Missouri. Ironically, LSU is the one with 2 losses on the season, still holding up on the ranking, not in our rankings, but on the AP poll, while Missouri's undefeated.
Who would have thunk?
Surprising. Who would have thunk? Nobody probably would have had this as pinned down as a good game, but it might be a great game this weekend. So, who do you have?
Yeah, so obviously it's in Missouri. I think that gives an edge to obviously we normally look at that as probably about a 3-point edge to Missouri. LSU is looking pretty weak right now, but Daniels is playing pretty well. Um, I'm gonna give a 2.5 point favor to Missouri.
2.5 to Missouri.
That would,
Wow,
yeah,
wow.
I
So
think it's
essentially a pick 'em is what you're saying. Essentially.
essentially, yeah, it's in
And
that
it
range.
is LSU by 6.5. The disrespect for Missouri. I don't
Yeah.
understand. I get LSU being the bigger brand, but 6.5, I think that's a little bit disrespectful for Missouri, especially being at home. I don't know if maybe they think LSU is going to wake up because of, what happened with Ole Miss or what, but that seemed a little bit weird there. But
Yeah. So, I mean, my prediction right now is that Brady Cook, who is playing very well this season,
correct.
for those who do not know, 75% completion percentage, 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, very good rating overall with one of the best receivers in the country, the former number 1 receiver coming out of a high school a couple of years ago, Luther Burden. Luther Burden has 644 yards in 5 games, looking very good. I think that they are going to cook that LSU secondary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Hot take. All right. All right.
Yeah.
I will wait to make my pick on that one. But moving right along to another SEC battle. We talked about it a little bit, teased it a little bit earlier. It is undefeated number 20 Kentucky, at number 1 undefeated Georgia. Like we said, neither of these teams are ranked in our rankings, but Georgia is more blatant because they're the number 1 team in the AP poll, even though some people believe they shouldn't. It is in Athens.
Yeah. So I think that's a big factor there. Kentucky is really good. They did, beat a decent Florida team. We've talked about the struggles that Georgia has had. Um, and we will kind of obviously show where we think this is going to be. But trying to bet where I think they put this line, especially being at Georgia and sort of the perception of what Georgia is. I'm going 11.5 to Georgia. I think this is going to be like a weirdly outlandish line.
Okay. And the line is Georgia minus 14. I guess you got that one barely. Two and a
I
half. Yeah,
did.
barely. Yes, it is honestly a horrible line. I hate this line. I've seen it at 14, 14 and a half, and 15, but that's what I got latest. It seems almost like a teaser, just tease enough so that people bet Kentucky can keep it within 14. But I agree, Georgia, after being away at Auburn and playing not as well, being at home, I think they can win more than that. So it's a weird teaser line. I don't really like it. Also the you didn't talk about Kentucky's Ray Davis. I don't have his stats up, but he's also destroying as a running back. I don't know if he'll be able to do that against Georgia's defense and the run defense specifically, but we will see.
Yeah, for those, Ray Davis, 76 carries, 594 yards, 7.8 per clip, and 8
It's pretty
touchdowns.
good. It's
So
pretty good.
doing pretty well.
7.8 per clip. Holy shit. Okay, I didn't know it was that high. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, moving to our next game, the last ranked game, number 10, Notre Dame.
Well, also just something to throw out there. Ray Davis, transfer,
From
Vanderbilt, and then Temple before that. But
okay.
right, so this is just another, just wanted to throw out, this is an example of kind of what you can do
Mm-mm.
in the transfer portal to kind of fix some spots, right? We've
Yeah,
talked before about Cam Coleman,
I
right,
like
at
you
Florida
bringing this up.
State,
Yep.
right? So I just like highlighting different times where you have success at the transfer portal that isn't just the Deion
No,
Sanders replace your
I
entire roster. So
I like that because I was gonna bring up, and I don't know why I think of this. First off, look up Ray Davis. Dude's like 22 or whatever. He looks like a 50-year-old man. It's crazy. And second, he reminds me a lot of like Kenneth Walker for some reason, like a bigger
yeah,
guy. And he was also a transfer from, was he Vanderbilt? No, he was Wake Forest or something, but also a transfer that came into Michigan State and had a crazy year. And I was doing still pretty well in the NFL. But I don't know why that comparison. Whenever I think of Ray Davis, I think of Kenneth Walker. Both transfers, both big guys and very good running backs. Right. Anyways, moving to the next game, number 10 Notre Dame at number 25 Louisville. If you didn't know, Louisville is undefeated. They ranked now at 25. This is the third game in back-to-back-to-back games that Notre Dame plays a ranked team, a big game, after playing Ohio State and then losing and then beating Duke narrowly last week. It is in Louisville. I don't know if it makes a difference.
I don't know what team you're talking about, but I'm pretty sure Notre Dame is playing Louisville this week. So, um,
Well, Jesus. They say
Louisville,
Louisville, Louisville, Louisville,
Louisville.
Louisville,
Um,
Louisville. Yes. Other
it's a tough
Kentuckians out
one.
there.
I do think that back-to-back road trips, a lot of emotions have been left on the field the last couple of weeks. I do think Notre Dame is a good team. Louisville, you know, I think is going to put up a good fight in this game. Um, as far as what I think they're going to put the line at, um, I'm going to go 11.5 Notre Dame.
All right, 11 and a half. And it is Notre Dame by 7. Narrowly
Oh,
missed out on that
narrowly
one.
missed it.
Yep. I think this is a trap game. I don't know why. This seems like Notre Dame is kind of getting screwed right now. They played Ohio State a couple weeks ago, had to
That's
play
on
Duke.
them.
No, it's not on them, right? Well, I mean, it's not really on them, but
It
they
is
had
on
to
them.
play the schedule they have, right?
They pick their schedule. They're the
True, but
one
like
team who gets to pick their schedule. It's on them. Fuck
fair,
Notre
but
Dame.
it's not like Sam Hartman and the players' fault. Like they just like that's But anyways, they had to play Ohio State, then they had to play Duke, then they had to play Louisville, and I think in like a week from now, like next week, yeah, I think next week they play. Don't they play USC?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a wicked stretch, man. Like Ohio State, you got to get up for. Duke, unfortunately, they thought they didn't have to get up for, but you do. They might not get up for this game because they have USC this game. I think this is a trap game. I might go the other way on this one, but the line is 7. All right, moving to our last 2 games. We're actually have 2 on here, but we're only gonna do bets on 5. But we just want to talk about another game, couple good games. Number 11, Alabama at none-ranked Texas A&M. They are both 4-1. It is in College Station. The past 2 games in this rivalry ended in essentially the last play of the game, one being a last-second field goal by A&M to win in College Station in 21, and then last year an incomplete pass from like the 2-yard line from A&M as well, which cost them the game, and they lost by 4. Very close games. There's kind of some beef here, as you've heard our podcast from last year, 2 years ago. There's some beef there. There's always kind of some heat in between Jimbo and Saban, but then they're really friends. But it'll be an interesting atmosphere. Who do you have?
Yeah, so I just want to preface, right? So I want to ask if this sounds familiar, right? Ranked Alabama comes to Kyle Field, right? With a Texas A&M team playing its backup quarterback. Sounds eerily similar if you're an Alabama fan to 2 years ago. And this is a much better Texas A&M team than we saw 2 years ago, and it's a better Texas A&M team than we saw last year. This is also a worse Alabama team than we saw either of those years. We will get into what my actual pick is here in a moment. However, I think, and I have to preface, I have a slight idea of what this line looks like as a pick'em. 2.5 to Alabama.
Yeah, it is 2.5 right now to Alabama. I think it started closer to like 3.5 or so, maybe at 4, depending where you looked at, but it was 3.5, 4, moved down to 2.5. What are you thinking is on this game then? Because it is one of the marquee games, obviously, is be totally biased. Like we've said, interesting situation with the quarterback, unranked teams, in Kyle Field. Atmosphere is going to be crazy, but we assume Bama is down compared to other years, and A&M seems to be going up. But we also have talked about Bama kind of on the up the past couple weeks. So, do you
It's both,
foresee? Right? Yeah, they're both right. So, does that change anything, or does that move the needle either way? Because if you would have talked about this, let's do it this way. After the Miami game for A&M, they lost. That was the same. Hours later, Bama also lost to Texas. They both said both teams were down, and now they're both kind of coming up. So it's almost like they're peaking both at the same times while they both were down at the same time. But does that make any difference in how you think the outcome would be, or is there some group or some side of the ball that you think will decide this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting matchups in this game, right? So, one of the biggest things to note is Alabama is one of the worst in the country in terms of passing. Right. And that obviously all settles in on Jalen Milroe. Mm-hmm. He is not a proficient passer. He is decent at getting the ball downfield, but I don't trust him. Right. His arm is not going to win them a game. His legs are really his best asset. He's not incompetent as a passer. But if I'm Texas A&M, I'm going to apply pressure and force him to get the ball out quickly, which is sort of his worst place, right? Mm-hmm. Avoid deep shots and try to collapse the pocket quickly and avoid the rush, right? Texas A&M's defense looks very, very salty right now. Their linebacking is looking really, really good. It's gotten better and better each week. Their defensive line is probably the most talented in the country. I didn't say the best. I said the most talented, which means I think they have a lot of room for improvement, even possibly from what we've seen in the last 2 SEC games. That Texas A&M defense has gotten 14 sacks and 30 tackles for a loss, which is a just absurd number. Alabama has a humongous offensive line, however, but they're one of the worst in the country in terms of sack rate.
Hmm.
Um, right. So it's really going to be, I think, that side of the ball that dictates this. If the Texas A&M defense can apply the pressure that we've seen them apply in the last two SEC games, it's going to be a long day for Milroe. On the other side of the ball, it's not unsimilar in a way. I think Max Johnson is a much more capable quarterback in terms of passing than Jalen Milroe.
Okay.
And he's also dangerous on the ground.
Hmm.
But that defensive front is also very dangerous for Alabama, and they have a better secondary than Texas A&M. So it's going to be close, but I give the edge there to Texas A&M across the board. That's where I
Okay.
see it right now.
Yeah, no, like I said earlier, I think they're both peaking. They both kind of figuring it out since they're both of the teams' losses 2, 3 weeks ago. Um, both have decent wins now against two SEC teams each. Alabama versus Ole Miss, and now Miss State, so both Mississippi schools, and then A&M versus Arkansas and Auburn a couple weeks ago. And I agree. The plan for A&M would be to apply pressure, try to scheme around getting a fifth guy or a sixth guy or whatever in safety, corner, linebacker, blitz to get in his face. Because if you let him give him too much time, he could throw it over the top, and that's where potentially the A&M defense is sus comparatively. So if he throws it over 30 yards or whatever and gets a big play, that could be some big turning points there. Also, he can obviously run it, but if you can contain him, that would help there. And on the other side, same type of thing. Alabama's defense is becoming very very good. It's getting very good right now. It's very cohesive, but also the D line is good, the linebacker good. Their whole defense is better, but I know Max can probably throw it better than Jalen Milroe, but I don't know, man. I feel like this is just another Alabama team figuring it out at the perfect time, and they unfortunately are still Alabama at this point. Nick Saban is still Nick Saban, and I see it being close. I do have a question for you though. For A&M to win and to pull the upset, how many points do they have to put up? I don't think it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if A&M scores in the 30s, I think they get a win.
Yeah, I have it in like 28 to 30. Like if they put up about 30, I think they could win.
Yeah, I was
Even
thinking
28.
31 to 35, 31,
Yeah.
35 range. I think I'd be very like if you told me that's how many they would score, I'd feel pretty comfortable.
But what's
Um,
a minimum that you think that they can get away with? Because I think, like to your point, I think it's gonna be a lower scoring game, and I think both defenses are gonna be playing well. So I'm like, if they could probably get to 28, 30, I don't think Alabama can score to 30.
and
But
the
it might
Alabama,
be the
yeah,
first to
Alabama
30,
put up
right?
I think 41 against Miss State.
Yeah.
Miss State's not a good team.
Not a good team, no.
Yeah, you know, if Alabama, I think Alabama's scoring about 24,
Yeah, something like that.
something like that. And I really do think it's going to be around there.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that the parallels between these two teams is sort of spooky.
A little
I
bit.
think if you look, like you said, right, if you look at the trajectory of the teams across the season, down in week
Very
two,
similar.
lose their out of conference game, look bad, everybody's like, sell everything, fire the head coach, burn the place to the ground. And then since then, both defenses have really come on. Um, you know, their
Yeah.
quarterbacks are good. Um,
Yeah, the offenses have evolved to
yeah,
what
they have
their quarterbacks' strengths are. Yeah.
they both use a stable of running backs.
Yep. Yep.
They both have O lines that are sort of coming into their own. In a way, I think
Yep.
A&M has a much better O line at this point in the
I
season
agree.
than
I agree.
Alabama does. If you look at the defensive side of the ball, the strength is, of course, on the D line for both of them. You've got Shamar Turner on one side, big number 5. On the other side, you've got Dallas Turner.
Yep.
I don't know who's the better of those two right now. Both of those teams have loaded D lines. Secondary, I give the edge to Alabama.
Yep. I
Linebacking,
agree.
I think is pretty
It's a
comparable
wash.
at this
It's a
point, but
wash.
I
Yeah.
just think it's very comparable on both sides of the ball. They obviously have great receivers on both teams. it's going to be very similar. I think the biggest edge is really going to be that quarterback position, and I give Texas A&M the edge at quarterback at this point, and home field. I think that's going to be a huge plus.
Yep. No, I agree with most of that. I think a special teams play or a turnover might be the deciding factor,
I think it will
which
be.
which
Turnover
is
battle will likely decide this game.
decide this, which is very difficult to make a pick off of that. But we have one
No,
more
it's
real quick.
not.
Okay, we have one more real quick.
One
Just for
million
the
points.
fun, just for the fun of it. We're not putting money on this. We're not betting. Now, Maryland, who's not ranked but is also undefeated, and has Tua's little brother Talia against number 4 Ohio State. It is probably one of the bigger games for Ohio State until they play Michigan and Penn State. Who do you have on this one? What do you think the line is?
I think the line's 16 and a half off the
Damn,
top of my head.
19 and
19
a
and a
half.
half? Yeah.
Right there. All right. Well, that one was just for fun. We had
Yeah.
another one we just throw in there because maybe Maryland should be ranked. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe they put them upset.
I don't think the odds makers like Maryland.
But they're undefeated. Like,
Yeah.
okay, put it this way: would you think of Maryland or Louisville?
Maryland.
Yeah, exactly. But Louisville's ranked and not Maryland. No, that's where
It's
you get into
we're
like
talking about whether the AP poll is right or not.
oh yeah, well we know it's not right, but I'm
Okay,
saying
so
well why is Maryland not ranked
why?
though? I think
Okay,
they should be ranked.
Texas A&M versus Louisville.
Texas A&M.
Yeah, and Texas A&M isn't ranked. So again,
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's why we threw that game on. That's
but
literally why we threw the game up.
if Texas A&M wins this game, especially if they win it semi-decisively, I think A&M is all the way up in like the 12th spot.
No,
Yeah. I think they
no,
swap. I think they like almost swap with Bama.
no.
Yeah.
For them to get to 12, they'd have to win by like 28.
I
21 to
said
28.
decisively.
Well, what's decisively to you?
I don't know. I would have to see it to believe it. It's got to be decisive.
No, it had to, like for that to be it'd be 21 to, at least to win. If they win by like 3,
I think if there's no threat really that Alabama wins in the fourth quarter, I think that's decisive. Sort of whatever that feels like, is decisive.
you just don't like putting a number on it.
That's true. I don't.
No, I think
because it'll come back to haunt me later.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only way they would get into like the 12s would be if they won by like 21, maybe to 28, like in that range. If it's like a 4 to 7 point game and A&M wins, Bama would drop, but A&M will only be like 21, 22. They won't be like 12. I don't see that.
Okay. Be wrong.
Me be wrong. You could be wrong. Your decisiveness is like, what does that mean?
Hey, don't get at me at my decisiveness rating.
It's just bullshit. You know that means bullshit.
It is bullshit. Yes.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know what you're on about.
Like, come on, man. Decisiveness. Give me a range at least. Over 17 points? No, that's not the decisive to you.
13. There's your points.
Over 13? So they need to win by 2 touchdowns.
Correct.
Okay. I don't think they will, but because I think this game's going to be like 27-24, 27-23 or something.
Oh, yeah. 31-24.
Oh, you have it a little bit higher. The over-under is like 50.
Yeah.
Oh, makes sense.
A slight over. Yeah. I think it's going to be a pretty defensive game for sure.
Yeah, I think it's way more defense. That's what I was asking how much you think. Like, is 28 enough? I think 28 might be enough to win this game. Like, whoever hits 28 wins. That's why the whole decisive
first to 28.
First to 28 is going to win. That's what I was like getting at. That's why whenever you're like decisive, I was like, what? They're going to win 28-0? Nobody's hitting 40 in this game. I don't think. I don't think anybody's hitting 40.
So I guess the other thing too is, so Arkansas and Auburn are the 2 teams that A&M's played in conference so far. A&M's defense in those 2 games has given up 10 points to Auburn and 15 points to Arkansas.
Say again? 10 points to Auburn and 15 to Arkansas? Yeah,
correct.
But that's not yeah, you're right. So you're saying the defense is going to keep it low. But also our offense hasn't scored that much in those games either.
34 and 24. Yeah.
No, the offense. See, there was a
Yeah,
punt
true.
and
True.
there was a and
27.
yeah, well
Oh, no,
in the
even less.
fumble, it's
20.
it's 20, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
you start thinking about it. Like if you just do offenses, it's not like 34 is now 20. Like
Yep.
I get it. You have to put all the stuff in. Like we're not saying you don't account for
Yep.
the turnovers, but it's 20 then.
Yeah.
So
Not a lot.
not a lot, exactly.
Yeah. It was also Max's first start this season. So
Yeah.
there's something to be said there.
He looked the second half is the thing that got me because he came out like slinging that thing. Like that first drive,
Langing it.
I was like, no, he what? That first drive. Look at that first drive. He was like 7 for 7 for
Yeah.
like 80 yards and a touchdown. I was like, okay, dude. And then the second half, it like immediately throws a pick six and then struggles, fumbles. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. That was weird. You ready for your picks?
No.
Okay. I am.
Okay.
Best get to it. Um, so
All right, let's go.
Oklahoma, Texas. Texas is -6.5, neutral site. Texas State Fair. You can go get a fried donut. Fried. Well, donuts are always fried. Fried corny dog.
I thought that
Extra
same thing
fried
you just.
donut.
I mean, you can get like double fried
I
stuff, I
got
guess, but
myself.
but yeah, you can get a funnel cake and probably like a double
Yeah.
fried or whatever, triple
Fuck it.
fried.
They would find a way to make an extra fried donut somehow. They would do
Yeah,
it.
they do. They do
They'd get a
double
donut and
fried.
then batter it and then fry it
Yeah,
again and then
fried
stick an
again. Yeah.
Oreo on it and then fry it. And yeah.
We got to
Anyway,
figure out what the crazy stuff because there's always crazy stuff. But yeah.
okay. So who do you got?
OU. I think this will be the first real test for Texas other than Bama. And so I have OU. Also, I've been betting against Texas a lot and it's not been working out.
Yeah, it's not working well at all for you. So I'm betting Texas. It's working really well for me,
Damn
unfortunately.
it.
I think Texas OU has not run into a defense that's even remotely close to what Texas is going to field on Saturday. I've got Texas 200.
All right, I got OU 150. Second game, LSU at Missouri. LSU -6.5. I got LSU on this one. I think they have a bounce back game. I think Missouri in Brady Cook and Luther Burden are, even though that defense isn't great for LSU, are going to figure it out and will be able to win by more than a touchdown.
Okay. Yeah, I think Missouri, I think this is going to be a close game.
Hmm.
I think it's going to be offensive. I think it's going to be very similar to the game that we just witnessed from LSU. Honestly. So I'm going to say it's going to be a close game. Missouri 150 for me.
Do you think Missouri wins straight up or no?
I have an inkling that they do,
Okay.
but I think I sort of have a feeling talent is going to come. I think it's going to be like if you really wanted me to put a number on it, I'd say LSU by like 3.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving to the next one, Kentucky at Georgia. Like I said, I hate this line. 14 seems like a teaser out there. I'm just gonna go for it and be like, screw it. Georgia will win by more than 14.
I'm going to go with my gut feeling and go with Kentucky for 200.
I think Kentucky, Georgia is gonna win either way, but yeah.
Yeah, I do as well. But I think it's going to be close.
Yep. Notre Dame at Louisville. It's -7. Like I said, I think this is too many back-to-back-to-back games for Notre Dame. Even though I'm really high in Notre Dame, they're probably looking ahead to USC. They probably already had 2 difficult games. Well, they have had 2 difficult games. It might be a little bit trap game. I think they can still pull it out, but I think it's be a very close game, which will be unfortunate because that'd be 3 straight games where they come down to like last second points. So I got Louisville here for 150.
I've got Notre Dame for 150. I just think they're that much better of a team. I think 7 is too achievable for Notre Dame.
Okay.
So I'm going Notre Dame.
Okay. And then the last one, since we're not betting the Maryland game, Bama at Texas A&M. I think Bama's going to win this game. I am just putting A&M on here because I'm keeping consistent with the first episode of this season for the podcast where I said Bama was going to make the playoffs and lose to both Texas schools. So I will stick to that and say A&M wins, even though I think Bama will squeak this one out and is going to win this game. But for the sake of this pod, I am going to go A&M to keep my consistency.
Mm-hmm. So Berto hedging his emotional bets here.
Well, no, it's because I put Texas. I didn't think Texas was gonna beat Bama 3 weeks ago, but I had said that so far earlier that I was like, I got to put money on it because I said it for you know weeks ago. So now I got to do it again. Got to put
Well,
money on A&M, but I think they're gonna lose by like 3.
I think your prediction is going to come true. Um, I, you know,
That Bama is gonna go 10-2 and lose to both Texas schools and still win the SEC West and the SEC and make the playoffs. All
okay, well,
right.
not all of that, but necessarily. I do. So I'm taking Texas A&M
Okay.
outright in this game. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think the home atmosphere is going to be a big part of it. Um, I think for both teams, protecting QB1 or QB2 in this case for A&M is paramount. Um, Alabama has already shown that they have nothing short of a disaster as a backup quarterback right now. And we're talking about Jalen Milroe, Milroe's backup. There's a
Yep.
steep drop off. Texas A&M, we don't even really know what the backup looks like. We've never seen them in a game. Um, I guess
This
he's a
is funny.
transfer, but
You brought up the 21 had the backup QB was his Calzada. 22 had 2 backup QBs.
correct.
It was Haynes King
Well,
and Jalen Milroe.
technically Haynes King started the season as the
Well,
starter.
started as a starter, then he got benched, then got those Max got injured,
Yeah,
ironically, and then Haynes had to come back in, which is I guess QB 1 or 2 at that point. But Jalen Milroe had to play because Bryce Young was
yes,
injured.
correct.
So we have seen similar to this. Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. I think Texas A&M comes out on top for many of the reasons I talked about before. I give them the edge at quarterback. And then I think in a lot of other places they are comparable. I think my prediction is that Texas A&M is going to sort of wreak havoc in that backfield, and Jalen Milroe will be behind the sticks a lot. And if you can get Jalen Milroe behind the
Hmm.
sticks early on downs, he's not going to beat you.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that analysis. I think the A&M also has a stick ahead of this, keep ahead of the sticks.
Yes.
I also
I,
think if they get into
you
long
always
third,
you always
you
do,
always do, yeah.
but I
But I don't.
believe in Caleb Williams picking that up over
Correct,
Jalen Miller,
correct,
right?
correct,
They're
correct,
like,
correct. But I don't think either of these are like big guys to do that. But yes, I get your saying. I get your saying.
yeah.
Also, this game will decide who is the front runner in the SEC West.
Yep.
They're both undefeated in conference, and every other team in the conference has a loss except these 2 teams. So big, big game for the SEC West and potentially the
Yep.
SEC championship in general.
Yeah. And the winner of this game has a 2-game lead over the second place team
In place, yep,
then, because of the tiebreaker.
yep. Because of the tiebreaker, you would have to lose 2 games,
Correct.
2 conference games to overcome that.
Yep. All right. I was Eric.
And this was Berto.
And this was Totally Biased. Till next week.